What's going on, boxing fans? It's Julian Williams with The Distance. I have another video for you guys today. This one is another fantasy matchup. As you can tell, I have two other videos, and I was wearing something else, but I made those videos because I was kind of thinking at the top of my head before I kind of lose it. I wanted to just record the videos before I just put them out. But this is another fantasy matchup. But this one is a rising star against an established legend. In a way, it seems to be a bit unfair because one of the fighters just isn't. He's a champion, but he's not yet established. He's not yet established himself as a champion or as the top guy. Unlike the other man who I'm about to mention, was probably one of the best boxers of all time, if not probably the greatest featherweight of all time. And that is Willie Pep. And this fantasy matchup is Willie Pep versus Yuriorkis Gamboa. When you think of it, it sounds unfair because just look at their records. Gamboa has even had 20 fights yet, and Willie Pep had like 242 bouts. Willie Pep, is perhaps the greatest defensive boxer of all time. Was able to slip shots, use angles, and was actually very elusive, very good on his feet, and his offensive timing was very good. So that's something that Yuriorkis Gamboa hasn't faced yet in his career. But if you look at the tail of the tape, Willie Pep's about 5'6", 68-inch reach, boxed nearly 2,000 rounds in 242 fights, compared to Yuriorkis Gamboa, who's 5'5", has a like 65-inch reach, and only boxed about 60 rounds. So with all those rounds that Pep has boxed, it's just a big unfair advantage. But in a matchup like this, Willie Pep was very good with his offensive timing. He was able to, and then on top of that, his defensive timing was amazing. He was very elusive. He got very low with his guard was not his guard necessarily, but his shoulders just got very low. They got low, and he was able to slip shots. He was able to counter shots, or sometimes he would come in with a straight left and then he'd kind of jump back, and it would be hard to catch him because he was so fast and so quick. So it would be very difficult for Yuriorkis Gamboa to catch him, I believe. Yuriorkis Gamboa does have very good hand speed, and he does have good head movement, and he is very good on his feet. But just the way that he does put his punches together very well for someone who's fought as many fights as he has. Gamboa does put his punches together very well, and the timing on his shots are very, very good as well. But really, when you think about this matchup, it just seems like a real mismatch because there's so much I could say about Willie Pep, but there's a lot I could say about Gamboa as well. But Gamboa has not really been tested at the top level such as Willie Pep has. Willie Pep even had an exhibition with the greatest fighter of all time, who was Sugar Ray Robinson. Had an exhibition against him, been in the ring with some of the best featherweights in the world in the 1940s, in the 1950s, been in the ring with some of the best featherweights in the world at that time. Gamboa hasn't had the luxury of facing that yet. He hasn't been tested the way that Pep has been tested. Gamboa, and maybe it's because Gamboa is that good, or I don't know, but there was, it's like this. It's another different era matchup, but like all these matchups. But when you have a very young fighter who does have a good amateur record and a good amateur background, against an overall legend who I think had better defense and better, I think that Pep did have better skill and did really master down his craft. Was able to master it down very well, down to a T, but 200 fights compared to like 16 or 17 fights. almost 2,000 rounds boxed. I think Pep boxed about 1,956 rounds compared to like the 65 that Gamboa's boxed. I'm going to go with the fighter with the more experience, the more established fighter. That's who I'm going to go with in this fight. I think that Willie Pep will slip a lot of shots and counter very well. I think that he'll move around the ring, and I think that his elusiveness, his quickness, will give Gamboa a lot of problems, because Gamboa is not facing an opponent who's able to just slip his shots, get extremely low, and have kind of a wide base of how of getting away from the shots, because I think it was the wide base of Willie Pep that got him away from the shots. And on top of that, his timing coming on the inside was very underrated. A lot of people don't really talk about Pep's offensive skill. His timing coming in, his timing coming in on the inside was very good. If not probably one of the best against among a lot of the greatest featherweights of all time. Willie Pep, was the real deal. Gamboa right now is is probably the top featherweight behind Chris John, but at the same time, he hasn't really faced the best yet, and Willie Pep at this point has the advantage in that department. He has faced the best. He's boxed more rounds, been in way more fights. Been 200 more than 200 more fights than Gamboa's been in. So I'm gonna go with Willie Pep. I'm gonna say Willie Pep by unanimous decision. Maybe in about 4 or 5 years we could talk about this fight and break it down a little more extensively. But I think that just Willie Pep, the fact that Gamboa does keep his hands down, keep his hands low at times. I think Pep's hand speed was good enough to catch Gamboa and give him a lot of trouble. But anyway, that was the distance. Thanks for watching. Peace.